Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Side of Hustle. Chance for me to sit down with some friends, some colleagues, talk about small businesses, small projects, expand networks, and expand communities. As always, my special guest has a lot of things going on in their life, and this one kind of breaks the mold. We actually don't have a Disney connection, which is crazy. Please welcome my special guest at this time, Miss Sara Boinkin. How are you?
I'm good. And we don't not have a connection to Disney. I mean, my cousin's a Disney Vacation Club member and we go.
I guess that's fair, but
we didn't meet through Disney.
Exactly. We didn't meet through Disney. We just have the Disney connection. We actually, and this, we kind of were talking about this the other night. We met through ghost codes through Snapchat. The social media world has brought many amazing people to my life, and you are definitely one of them. So thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. How's everything going for you? How's this unprecedented time?
It is a strange time for all of us, isn't it? And the funny thing about being in the mental health space is having to also practice my own self-care while extending myself to others. So It's funny when we're all navigating something that's totally new, we have to get ahead of it, just like all our doctors and nurses are dealing with numbers in the hospital they haven't seen. They have to get ahead of it, but also feel like they're drowning in it as it's happening. Right. So somebody throw me a life raft. We're okay.
We'll be fine. We'll get through this together. So you do like 900 different things, right? Because you can't let your brain rest. You got to keep moving. But your main project, or not main project, but main company, I guess, for lack of a better term, is Project Potential, correct?
Yes.
Tell me, let's get right into that, and I'll kind of work backwards of how it came to be. So what is Project Potential?
So Project Potential focuses on grow, nourish, flex. Grow is about mindset. Nourish is about nutrition. Flex is about physical activity. And we use all three of those areas to bring people long-term and sustainable health, both physically and emotionally in their lives.
It's super cool, and especially as you said, right now is a time when people really need to kind of refocus on all of those things. So where did it come from? How did it kind of funnel into that specific collection?
So it started with the grow. I've been a mental health counselor for just about a decade. My dad was also in the field, retired in October. So I had this passion from the time that I was in high school, where I realized that I wanted to also be in the mental health field and help people with their treatment goals. And I did that in Arizona for about 4 years. And as I was telling Doug, I was a child and family therapist. I had at one point 68 kiddos on my caseload, and I wanted to help everybody, but a really realistic mindset that I had to put was 33% of the people I work with are going to improve in some way. They might not get to their treatment goals. 33% are going to stay the same, and 33% we might just touch something that they're not ready to touch upon, especially kids being in situations that they don't have a lot of control over, and it might make things worse. So recognizing and looking for those moments where I felt like I was making positive change were few and far between. And so about 5 years, I moved out to California for my husband's job. And I decided, I'm really burned out on just counseling, and I want to do personal training. I had, during the time that I was a therapist in Arizona, I had started doing bodybuilding. I challenged myself, I'm taking care of others all day, but I'm not doing any self-care. And I'm sure a lot of us can think about health professionals that tell us, well, you need to eat better, but our doctor also looks like he could afford to eat better. And it might just be that they don't have the time in their day. So I was really looking for challenging myself to be better so that I could serve better. And in doing that, I learned a lot about nutrition. I had a psychiatrist that was in our office, but when you have a 10-year-old that's going to, medical appointments, and the parent says, well, I don't want my 10-year-old on more Lexapro or more Seroquel, it's only going to go up from here. I challenged the psychiatrist and partnered with the family and said, can we eat differently? Can we get some physical activity and motion that might improve these behaviors? And we were seeing improvement. So I, for a long time now, have looked at food as fuel. You're either going to put that premium gasoline in your vehicle, or you're going to put in some unleaded, or you might, skip your oil change, and it's going to lead to some problems. So when I moved out to California, I decided, go the personal training route. And with that started also incorporating the mental health aspect. I started incorporating nutrition. And so I meet my clients where they are based on what their need is.
So did all of those elements, like, have those always been concerns of yours, or was there a flip moment where you went, I need to focus on all those aspects?
Well, when you are serving so many people and you don't even have time to eat or go to the bathroom, you start to question your choices, especially when the choices are, okay, well, Sarah, you don't have time to eat, so why don't you have another coffee? And why don't you have another coffee? And your coffee will stave off your hunger. And 9 o'clock at night, I am eating my first real sit-down meal. I have 4 other containers of Tupperware prepared food that I didn't even get to touch. And I'm not seeing the results from going to the gym other than the endorphins that come slightly after my workout, but I'm not seeing the efforts. When you're putting forth effort and you're not seeing change, it's very frustrating. So
totally. Yeah. I mean, I think we bonded and over that health stuff. I'm just distributor for Advocare. You are with Isagenix. So we both have sort of that, we know it's supposed to be in our body and how it's supposed to work and all those things, but finding those times. Let's talk about Isagenix just for a quick second. How did it find you? Because I know there's tons out there and everyone's trying different things. What was the decision to go with that company?
Yeah, well, I've been one of the ones to go with a bunch of different things. In high school, my sister, mom, and I had done Weight Watchers together, and really it was kind of something that I did to support my little sister because she was someone who had always struggled with weight. And I now say had, because my sister was actually my first Isagenix client, and I've successfully helped her to lose and keep off 57 pounds.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and the change that happens for people, you start to realize this is so much more than weight loss. This is people refining themselves and falling in love with themselves. And that's something I've always felt about, training and also with counseling. So I was looking for something that was convenient. I had tried some other things. I'm not going to throw any companies under the bus, but they hadn't been a good fit for me. And when I had a friend who had already accomplished what it was I was trying to accomplish, she had done bodybuilding the year prior. She had said, I found this company. She goes, I don't know what's in this stuff, but I look after 3 weeks the way that I did after 3 months of eating chicken and broccoli, and I'm not hangry and I'm not fighting with my husband. I was like, okay, well, if you're telling me I can put in the same amount of time at the gym, but actually see a change, because at this point I was putting in 7 days at the gym and I was still sitting at 33% body fat. And that just felt like an hour wasted, an hour wasted, an hour wasted. And I was taking naps in my car. If my client was not at their home when I got to their home, I will be honest, I drove to the next street so they wouldn't find my car in case they didn't come home. I would take a nap, provided it wasn't the summer in Phoenix, because it's about 110 there.
Yeah.
And then I would drive on to my next client. So there was a lot of that going on. And I was only in my 20s at the time. Like, I feel now I have a lot more energy in my 30s with a kid than I had. Yeah. So that's how it had found me, was a friend who had her own testimony.
You grew up in Arizona, Phoenix to be specific. You're now in the Silicon Valley area of California. Health, fitness, health, wellness, is it different from area to area, or are people just as whatever about it in both locations?
Oh, definitely. It's so different here. And I think you know this from when I was working with a tech company, if you'll remember that.
Yeah.
There was a time that I was a community manager for a startup here. In Arizona, the mindset is very much like, you have a 9 to 5. Every Monday you wish it was Friday. You hate your life for 40 years, but it's a much more affordable way of living. And so people do what they have to do to earn the paycheck. Here, it is not as affordable. So people have their job, and then they also have the thing that they're passionate about, or the side hustle. A lot of people, they might work for Google, but they also drive on the weekends for Uber. Like it is not mutually exclusive that if you're with this big company, that's the only thing that you do. And so I think it inspired in me this idea of entrepreneurship. And I also think that people really valued the mobile fitness aspect because some of the challenge here can be getting to the gym. Our 24-hour fitnesses, if they come back as 24-hour, because I hear they might shorten the hours, people were utilizing them all throughout the night because these 24, 25-year-old engineers didn't have a family to go home to. So they'd work until 10 o'clock at night and then they'd, go to the gym, and it's a very different culture here. So, so people are really valuing, I think, the mobile fitness. It's not that doesn't exist in other places, but when you have a CEO of a big company, they need to squeeze it in with the very brief time that they have if they're going to be healthy.
Yeah. So it's just so cool to think about. Like, you've been so different places, different things, and you have you're a counselor, you're a fitness instructor, you're a nutritionist, like. And so through Project Potential, you've culminated all those things into one. Do people come to you for all of them, or do they break it up into one counseling session at a time?
So some of them think that they come for just one thing, but then they find, just like everything in our lives is so systemic. Like, Doug, you are a person, but you are a product of the family that you grew up in, the neighborhood that you grew up in, the schools that you went to. Everything is systemic. So to try to separate and say, this is the one thing that makes me who I am, is just not really realistic. The relationship that we have with food, the relationship that we have interpersonally, the relationship that we have with exercise has everything to do with the messages that either were passed down to us or that we have now internalized and they've become our own.
Gotcha. That's so, sorry, I'm just basking in a second because that's so interesting. It really is. Like, it's, I would know I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't grow up with the parents that I had. And so obviously when you're looking for counseling in all those facets, that kind of all really just gels together. So Project Potential is, again, your thing. And is there a side? There's like 9 side things, right? You have so much going on.
I just think that we're all really multifaceted. And do you remember when we were growing up and we said, well, I want to be an astronaut, but I also want to be a dentist? Like, why can't you? Like,
yeah, right.
Granted, some jobs require more time, but if you are creating your own thing, then you also designate the time that you do the things that you want to be doing on the side. So I also, I resell for Poshmark. I have a passion for fashion and for sustainability. I also, things that I make money off of. Scrabble every once in a while I play in tournaments, but that's for fun.
Really?
Sometimes I do podcasts with friends. That I was recently involved in a live streaming app. I don't know if you know who Diana Mae Fernandez is, but she's a friend of mine, and she was contracted with this company that was a live streaming app from China. So she brought me and some other influencers on to live stream for them, provide content, and we got paid for that. So I feel like if you're not getting paid to do things that you like in your spare time, then you got to get rid of them. Like, your time is your time. So are you spending your time how you want to be spending your time? And granted, we don't all have that option all the time. Like I said, I'm a mom of a 2.5-year-old. He is very much a small dictator, and he does rule a lot of my time when he's here. But when he's sleeping, that's time for me to develop myself as I want to be.
That's awesome. So at the beginning of, let's say, a health and wellness fitness journey, what's the advice to getting started? What's the first thing we're looking at changing or committing to?
Well, everyone's going to have their own goals. I'm a big proponent of Bill O'Hanlon. He's a writer and also a therapist. He wrote a book called Do One Thing Different. I very much think that you have to do one thing at a time. If I'm teaching you to juggle and I throw 20 balls at you at once, you're going to drop all of them. But if I'm teaching you to juggle, I give you one, you get the rhythm with that one, you get that muscle memory. Okay, I give you another. So my advice is not changing everything all at once. It's what small tweak can I make in this period? Can I show myself that I can be successful with that? Okay, I was successful with that. Now what can I add? or I wasn't successful with that. Okay, why wasn't I successful with that? Or does that not fit something that I could see myself being successful at? And let's pivot again.
Okay. So I feel like a lot of it's kind of mindset, right? You're in this one train route. You have to change how you think about certain things. What's the advice for that? Any advice for how to flip your mind to making it easy?
Yeah. Self-awareness is our greatest tool.
Yeah.
It's never going to be easy, but if we lack our self-awareness, then we lack the understanding of why our behaviors are the way that they are. Why am I fighting myself? What's really going on? Where does that come from? Whose voice am I hearing that may have become my own over the years?
So you've done a lot of podcasts, you've done a lot of things like this. Is there maybe a question that isn't being asked? Is there something that you're like, I want to tell the world this, but no one's asked me this before?
It's not that I haven't been asked. It's just that I'm not asked enough.
Oh, that too. That works.
Why are my smart choices not leading to the outcomes that I want? And I'll take it in the vein of nutrition, because I was just talking with a friend of mine today who is undergoing some pretty serious cancer treatments. The challenge here is that what we once knew as healthy nutrition was a lot more enriched previously. I know that, farmers markets, for example, are growing in popularity. And the reason is when you have a small crop tended to by a single individual, you get a better product. We know this too from even the clothing industry, how something is mass produced or how something is when it is design or custom made, right? So the challenge is that what we once did for ourselves for our health is no longer maybe what is being met. If I have an already depleted nutrition system, for example, because of, the urgency to get crops to market and to turn over the soil as quickly as possible to get new crops, and everything's about profit, right? So if that is what I am comprising my salad of, I am taking from an already bankrupt food system and depriving my body even more of those nutrients. So this is why I've become a big proponent of supplementation. It's not that we've always needed to supplement, but these are the times that we're living in. Number one, our food system has shifted very quickly, much more quickly than our body has been able to detoxify. Number two, a lot of us grew up in the 80s, the 70s, the times that food was about convenience, because all of a sudden we had two-parent households where both parents were going to work. So we've talked a little bit about systemic and how that affects, and I know that's a huge word right now as all of us are talking about systemic racism, but just that anything can't exist singularly. We have to look at that ripple effect. What else is going on? And now understand, when I am the center of that ripple, why the smart choice that I'm making maybe is not leading to the long-term goal that I have for myself.
I've been involved in it for about 6 years now. We always preach that the supplementation fills all the gaps, right? You can eat all the chicken and the broccoli, but there's still pieces missing. So being able to fill in those gaps with what works best for you, finding the right things when whoever the producer is a huge component of that. So Project Potential, is there a community aspect to it, or is it very simply one-on-one counseling?
So we do have a group on Facebook. You can find us Project Potential. We are now, I think, about 360 members in that group. Not everybody I work with is on Facebook. I do work with quite a few elderly clients that prefer not to be on Facebook. And everybody that I work with prior to coming into that group has had some type of one-on-one free consultation with me, just so I can assess what their goals are and help them to start to create that self-awareness and recognize the reason that you have been hitting a wall is not solely because of something that you have or have not done. That, there are other solutions that are just outside of your periphery of realization.
Right. So outside of the Facebook group, where do we find you? What links can we attach and track you down for whatever we need
Sure.
personally from you?
So you can find me on Instagram. It's Boink, which I've linked here.
Okay.
I had a website that I decided to forego because I am in several spaces right now. So
Yeah.
I just want one more thing to have to check. But
Mainstream.
if anyone reaches out, the spelling of my name this way, Sara B. Boinkin, is that way on Facebook. You can find me there. I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone. And I just find that as long as I can be personable about my business and have that one-on-one touch, that is what I desire to do. I've always been much more attracted to one-on-one as the setting would be in counseling than let me produce a course and mass produce it. And maybe you know my face, but I have no idea who you are. I want to know all the people that I'm working with and be able to celebrate their growth with them.
Yeah. Of course, we'll link all those put all those links in the description down below here on the show. So I want to go, before we wrap up, I want to go all the way back. Like growing up, child, what was the dream? Did you ever think you'd end up being a therapist, fitness instructor, nutritionist? Where did we start, and how did we get?
You're gonna get a kick out of this. I've always been passionate about art, and I wanted to be a Disney animator for the majority of my life.
And there's the Disney connection.
Up until I was in high school, and they started doing everything via computers, which I was not passionate about. I was passionate about hand drawing, and actually, in college, I was a double major in psychology and art because I had the goal of going into art therapy. But if you guys remember when the economy crashed, art therapists were paid out of pocket and counselors were paid by insurance companies. So I guess I had to say in that way, even, a decade ago, I was thinking about how can I make myself not expendable?
Yeah.
How can I be applicable to people as they need me throughout whatever they may need me for? So that was a big dream. I also was very passionate about figure skating. I still do roller skate, like rhythm skating, every Friday night with a group that we call ourselves the Social Distance Skating Club. We have like social club shirts.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's pretty much, that was the dream.
So in college you did counseling as well as art, and then you just sort of like, well, this was probably more lucrative than the art thing was. And
but I still incorporate with my therapy art as a modality because there's so much more that's being said when we're not saying anything. Actually, the client that I just worked with right before this was given a drawing assignment that she needs to complete by next week, but that was geared and steered by her. That was not.
There you go.
That was not, hey, I know you're not really into drawing. Go ahead and make me a stick figure.
Right. Yeah. Pushing people out of the comfort zone. You're like, no, we'll training wheels for a little bit.
Yeah.
So a question I ask everyone, just because the nature of the show, what does hustle mean to you?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Thanks.
And as I'm thinking of it, I'm calculating how many points it is in Scrabble. Hustle means you better get that H on a triple word square.
Yeah. I love that.
I think there's a big difference between being busy and being productive, and I'm going to say the same of hustle. There is hustle, and I think we're all realizing this with the collapse of the world right now. That when we've worked ourselves too hard, we come to this point where we're just extremely exhausted and we have to take a step back and go back to our basics, which is what this has forced us to do. So I think the question is, how do I make my hustle productive rather than make my hustle busy? And that is what people call working smarter and not harder, right? Yeah. How do I use the time that I have? Because you got to think about it this way. We have the same 24 hours that Beyonce does. So what is she doing?
Right.
Aside from the fact that we don't have assistants, although I always joke that Alexa is mine until I can afford one. Oh, she's listening.
Did she hear you? Is she turned on now? Because that's usually what happens.
I turn her on very easily. Yeah, just that idea that how are you spending your time the way that you want to be spending your time? And if you do that, you may feel productive more so than you would feel if you were spending your time doing just busy work.
Perfect answer. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we sign off here?
This has been a blast.
Oh, good.
Just take the time that we have. The world is giving us this graceful break that we've never experienced. And it's not like, a holiday where we have a purpose to having that time off. Everybody's, there's that hustling and bustling for Christmas or Thanksgiving. This is time for us to look into the skills that we've always wanted to culminate about ourselves. Yeah. And I know for me, it's been the sourdough habit. That's been fun.
It's been a big one.
Okay, what else? How quarantined are you? Have you Dalgona coffeed? Have you acid washed a sweatshirt? Have you gardened?
Yeah. Did you bake bread? And what did you binge?
Hair?
Yeah. Have you cut your own hair? I think is the last part of that. Yeah.
Then this is a time for re-exploring the things that you once enjoyed or have always been curious about.
Very cool. I've been saying for a long since this whole thing started, especially with certain people being furloughed and certain companies just sort of kind of resetting to a certain extent, that I feel like it's an opportunity for everyone to be a rookie again. And to really hone in on what they know and their skills. And on the other side of that, those people who know their skills and know their business, like yourself, it's time to flourish and become more.
Can I give one more shameless plug?
Of course, please. Yeah.
On Wednesdays on my Facebook page, Sara B. Boinkin, at noon Pacific Standard Time, so 3 p.m. for my Eastern Standard Time people, we do something called a mindful meditation. It's usually anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes. And I am doing this as long as I'm shelter in place. So yesterday was our 13th installment.
Oh, wow.
Every week we do a meditation, a reading. Yesterday was some stretching for those of us who are spending a lot of time sitting in chairs. So I just want to offer that to your audience as a free place for them to come and disconnect a little bit.
I love it. Thank you so much for that. And of course, again, just links will be in the description below. Sara, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you. It's the first time we've chatted outside of a text forum, so it's really, really nice.
Thanks, guys. I hope you're enjoying yourselves and your chin up.
Sara, thank you so much for your time. We really greatly, greatly appreciate it. And thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, let you know when new episodes or new videos are available to watch. As always, thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Keep watching videos. We'll see you next time.